Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Chilling Neigh Podcast, your premier VGC podcast. My name is Rashil, aka Konkadonk, and I'm joined by Sabai and Tommy Hayden. What is
What's up,
up,
guys?
guys?
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. Ryan, I hope you had a blast in Vancouver.
Bro, I'm tired.
Yeah, just so everyone knows, Ryan got off a
Yeah.
flight at like 1 a.m., and we're forcing him to record 10 hours later.
No.
So,
I got on the flight at 1 a.m.
oh, on the
I
flight.
got
Oh,
home
my bad.
5 minutes ago.
Even worse.
I got
Even
home
worse.
5 minutes ago.
Oh, good.
He
Oh,
hasn't
very
stopped
good.
moving.
Well, can't wait to talk about your experience and just Vancouver overall. So, first of all, congrats to James Evans
Yes,
Yes.
on what I believe is his first Masters regional
that
win.
is correct. Yes.
I looked this
Obviously,
up.
an incredibly accomplished player, former world champion,
He has
and
four senior
and
regionals.
yeah, and he
Four senior.
actually got was the runner-up at Knoxville, the last NA
Yeah.
regional, and then came back and won it with an adaptation of the same team that he used there. Um,
Yeah.
So just really, really cool, really impressive, and then a great final set against Brady Smith, also known as VGC Corner, who's just a great resource for all things VGC. So if you don't follow him on Twitter, definitely recommend following him. But wanted to get your guys' thoughts on the finals, Top Cut, what you guys saw, what you guys noticed.
Gouging Fire finally did it. That's all. I'm happy. Gouging Fire
You've
finally
been
did it. It sadly wasn't me, but Gouging Fire finally did it. Okay, I have been this thing's strongest soldier for a while now. Actually, probably not even the strongest soldier. I think there's people that have played way more tournaments with it than I have. But I've been one of the bigger believers of it since it dropped,
you've
and
been
I'm
talking about
happy to
it.
see it finally pass that second place mark because it deserves it. Like, it's not one of those teams where you look at it and it goes, okay, this has like very good matchups in my favor. But it's another one of those teams that doesn't have a lot of negative matchups either. It's got a very nice matchup spread, and it really just comes down to how well you are playing on the day of with it. And you got to put that in the hands of like someone like James Evans, and you see what happens, right? So
Yeah, it was it was it's kind of insane to me, like bringing it back to when these paradox, like these newer paradox mons dropped, and we had
Yes.
the episode discussing, okay, which ones do we think are going to be good? And Raging Bolt was the clear, like, okay, it gets a priority electric move, like that's going to check Torners. Finally, we have something, and it was really a focus on Raging Bolt. And I mean, I think Ryan called this out, but I was totally sleeping on him, on
Ryan
Gouging
did
Fire
call it.
being like a
it's good.
pick that would be something that would be a good
It's good.
mon, and I totally slept on it, and it has been consistently um just one of the, I mean, like Raging Bolt and Gouging Fire both have been like, Raging Bolt lived up to the hype, and Gouging Fire has been right there beside it, just being one of the best mons in Regulation F.
Dude, Gouging Fire's been crushing the New York, New Jersey local scene too. And I want to shout out the team Carl was using at the top 16th place, Carl Dozo Tinglu Gouging. Because I've lost to Chuppa using a version of that team. I lost to Tristan Medine using a version of that team. I lost to Carl using a version of that team. All in the locals the past couple of weeks. James Evans has been working on and tweaking his team at the local scene too. Like it's just so cool to see all these New York, New Jersey players coming out and showing up, showing out at the bigger events like they have been. And again, Gouging Fire really stole the show, I think. You know, like this final set was so well positioned by Brady and James. It was back and forth. I thought Brady's adjustments game two were phenomenal. Right? It was James game one, Brady game two, James game three, if I remember correctly. And I had so much fun watching this one just as like a fan of Pokemon. And I want to talk about the top eight in general. I had so many friends in the top eight. I was like, oh my God. James is awesome. Brady is amazing. I know Brady from a high roller league. Scott is one of the most underrated players in America right now. He top 16 or top 32 worlds last season with the Goldango too. He was Terra Dragon Goldango there, and I thought it was a great adaptation. Scotch Tape VGC. He also went 5-0 in the first Tommy Tour. Michael Zing's a player I've lost to this season or last season at a late regional. Ashton Cox is awesome. He plays in the Tuesday tours occasionally. And then Brandon Tudenhagen. He was my main prep partner last year. Me and him hopped on more phone calls than anyone else I've hopped on phone calls to prep and talk about different matchups and how I could help him, how he could help me. And we started doing that right before Fresno after Portland. And we got matched up and I gave him his third loss at Fresno. and I was the first person he's ever like really team built with, and I was like, oh, this dude's never gonna talk to me again. And like, he helped me optimize my team, and I ended up giving him his third loss and eliminating him from the tournament. Are you kidding me? Like, this guy's got to be pissed at me right now. But we like stayed friends through it. We hung out in Japan. We hung out at NAIC, and he's still one of my good friends to this day. We talk all the time. And to see him get that top 8, I was rooting for him so hard to win it all once he got into the top 8, man. And his stream game, too. He got on stream. So many friends got on stream. Chuppa looked great with that turtleneck. Ryan, you looked awesome in the fucking stream game. I mean, your appearance, not your gameplay. Because
Do I suck? Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, you would have won turn 1 if you could just hit your fucking moves. The icicle crash is so brutal, man. I might go back to Ice Spinner if I run Chen.
I have a Rillaboom. Honestly, though, the way I look at that is the way my team composition is, I have to run Icicle Crash because of the team I chose. I ran Icicle Crash. Yeah. I'm going to miss it throughout the tournament. I definitely did not hit it 90% of the time. I will be honest this weekend. I probably hit it. I didn't run the numbers, but my guess is somewhere sitting around 75, 80, I think. But, I mean, that's what you get when you run the move. So.
And 90% accurate moves that flinch like that on a Pokemon as strong as Chen Pao swing momentum so quick. Yep. Because if you hit that and you get the flinch, it swings momentum in your favor so much. You hit that, you miss your move, it swings momentum in your opponent's favor so much. And balancing that throughout the long tournament like this is something you just need luck on your side for.
Yeah, the thing, I could have Sacred Sworded. Would have got the kill. I just didn't realize Grassy Glide was actually going to do that much. So
Grassy Glide did way more than I was expecting. Yeah. Way more than I was expecting. But, dude, honestly, your team was so well positioned because we talked about it earlier. John Mark, shout out John Mark. He bubbled at 9th. I love that dude.
Bubbled at 9th.
Like, him and Marcus Leon, the two Canadians getting 9th and 10th felt.
That was like tragic. Okay, like we're all standing there as Canadians. Okay, and you want to know something dumb about this too? Is not only were we standing there as Canadians watching like everything unfold, we've got Polkadata open watching the Resistance updating live, but when Jean Marc won his game.
He tweeted.
No. Not only did he tweet, they took him backstage for his photo for Top Cut. They took him backstage for his photo because they thought he had cut.
That's brutal. Wait, that's so brutal. So they're like, here, take this picture. We're gonna need it for when you make the top 8, and he finished 9th.
He finished 9th. Yes.
That's so brutal.
You gotta have all the
Canadians. I gotta do a quick shout out because there was so many Canadians that did amazing, but my favorite Canadian of the weekend, I think Twitter's favorite Canadian of the weekend, Jesse Romolo, like with the hot dog,
hot diggity dog. Guys, I got outplaced by a hot dog.
It was awesome.
I got outplaced by a hot dog.
Friend too. Ian Lee telling he's tweeting about how trying to explain to his in real life friends that he lost on stream to a hot dog was very hard. And that tweet made me laugh so much. And then Justin Tang tweeted out a picture of a conversation with Jesse where he's like, I think I'm going to wear the hot dog costume because it's going to make at least one person tilt throughout the day. And it's just so funny. Like, Jesse's so nice.
That's what Jesse was saying. Jesse straight up did it so he could walk in and say he's new and everybody would think he's just some dude in a hot dog costume.
He's too well known for that. Come on, Jesse. Let's be real.
Honestly, though, I think you can get away with a lot of that.
There was that. I think whoever said it, but someone on Twitter was like, "It's always optimal to lie and say it's your first tournament."
Yes,
anytime anyone
it is quite literally optimal to tell people it is your first tournament. By far, like that is quite literally optimal. Like when people ask, "Oh, so how long have you been playing?" Right? You are optimal. It is optimal for you to lie. And I hate to say that because it is optimal for you to lie.
Put the world's backpack on the table. This is my first tournament ever.
Right. At that point, when you have the swag, oh, it's my first tournament ever. My friend got this for me.
Yeah.
Brought it back from Japan.
Amazing. All right, bring it back to the top 8. I want to point out a couple things. First of all, the return of...
We didn't talk about Neil and Brandon Davies, too. Sorry.
Yeah, there's tons of options.
There's a lot, but I want to quickly touch on the return of Side Spam and your thoughts on Iron Moth, Tommy, because that was, I thought, so cool.
So Brandon is a player that has a lot of friends of friends. Like, I don't know this dude personally, and I got to reach out and just be like, can we hop on a call and just talk shop? I really respect what you got going on. And B-Dog Platinum's his Twitter. If you don't follow him, follow him. He's a killer. There's no doubt about it. He's been on the Gallade train for a while. I got his pace pulled up. I hope he meant to wide guard the turn he knocked out his own Gallade on stream. I saw him tweet. We don't talk about that though.
No, he
Which
meant
made me
to
laugh,
flex.
too.
Don't worry about it. It was a flex.
He
Yeah.
won anyway, so it's okay. Like that, if he had
So
lost
funny.
it, that would have been bad.
Yeah,
but
that
he
would have
did
been
win.
one way to go out of a tournament, eh? Could you imagine losing
I
a
missed
tournament
that
or getting
game.
knocked
I gotta
out
go back
because
and
you just
watch
didn't
that.
click the button?
Oh, dude. But he's a killer. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. Him using the fast side spam with the tachyon cutter guy. What's his name?
Iron Crown?
What's his,
Iron Crown.
that one.
Yeah.
So side note, timeout. I sometimes call Iron Boulder and Iron Crown Tachyon Cutter and Mighty Cleave. And
Oh, I
just
do it.
mix
I
up
do.
the
No,
names.
no. You know what? I call Gouging Fire Bulwark half the time, so I don't blame you.
Yeah, I just confuse the names. I don't know why I can't get it through my head. All right, time in. But no, Brandon is a killer, and I really got to reach out to this dude because he's amazing. And seeing him build his team so creatively and be able to position the Indeedee in this Rillaboom instant heavy meta, and really get his size spam off, build his team to position it around. How many psychic types does this dude have? He has 3 psychic types. Love it. The Ursaluna Hisui. Yeah, it's Hisui Ursaluna.
Yes.
Right? Not the
Yeah, it is.
that
Hisui.
thing's a killer. Yotam's been using it, and he brought it to the New Jersey, New York local scene last weekend. Not this past, not the most recent weekend, 2 weekends ago now, and was crushing it with it. We have a player, Morgan O'Hare, who's been crushing it with Hisui Ursaluna, and that mon really
Aaron
is a
Traylor
cool
got
mon
top
right now.
16.
What happened?
Aaron Traylor got top 16
Yep.
with it, and I actually faced him at a local the past week with him
Yeah.
testing out that team. It's definitely strong.
Yeah,
No, that's what I mean. I mean, like the Hisui Ursaluna is something that so I'll spoil this. I'm using it tonight at a local. I'm using Weakness Policy Armorage, Earthquake, Roaring Moon, and Hisui Ursaluna, and I'm just gonna go have fun in a best of 1 PC, and my opponent's gonna be like, "What is this guy doing?" And I can't wait. But it's really a fun mod to use. If you haven't tried it, I can't recommend it enough. And seeing it get these results and be on these trick room teams, be on these hybrid teams, like Aaron Traylor has the Cresselia, which is the most common partner, and then the rest of the team operates like a regular balance team, in my opinion, with Tornursh, Bolt, and Instant. Or maybe I'm wrong on balance, but it's just like a bulky, slower with that fast mode.
It's got 2 aggressive modes with Cress Ursh, and it's Torn and Bandit Ursh, and so you can just
It's
kind of
Bandit Ursh.
Yeah.
with Rain Dance too. So you can just go Tailwind, Surging Strikes, Rain Dance, Surging Strikes, and just iterate stuff. And it's Life Orb, Raging Bolt actually, so it's a pretty aggressive team.
That's a really aggressive team, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's
there's
doing damage.
Yeah, Cress and Instant are his main defensive pivots, but yeah, he's doing a lot of damage to the team, and it's Hisui and Ursaluna's a really good pick with AV Raging Bolt everywhere, right? Because
Yes.
for example, the Blood Moon, its counterpart is not gonna pick up Okos on that thing unless you get a bunch of multipliers, right? Whereas okay, a Headlong Rush is just gonna pick up
Headlong
the
Rush.
Raging,
Yep.
so it's a really strong pick with it's just you have to counter those intimidates, but a lot of those players are running Swords Dance on Ursaluna to counter potential intimidates and stuff like that. With Cresselia, you can get that healing, and then I think with the side spam stuff, you can go a little bit more aggressive. The other side spam player I really want to call out because I think he's been one of the best team builders of this season at least, and I don't know, probably prior, but
No, longer.
Michael
Yep.
yeah,
Longer. Yeah.
the teams that
He's getting noticed this season.
I'm
season,
gonna
he won.
flamed for my take on this, but you guys can continue for a second. I'll bring my point up in a minute.
Let me ask a couple of it and let's see. I don't know, but his regional winning team earlier in the season
Yeah.
with bringing T-Tar and introducing Como into the meta was super super cool. And then recently he had a Magmar team that he did
Yes, the
a day
Magmar
2
Primarina
with.
stuff. Yep.
Yep, that was super super cool. And now bringing side spam, keeping his T-Tar that he won with and Como, but having that Whimsicott instead of Tornadus, having
Misty
that.
Terrain.
And so cool. And the return of Ogerpon Fire, I think, is something that we need to talk
Yeah,
about.
we'll
too,
be
but
we'll be
I know-
getting to that in a minute, I'm sure.
Yeah. All right, Ryan, let's
Okay.
hear your take.
I'm gonna get yelled at here, guys. I think this team is absolutely awful. I'm gonna be honest. I think the team is trash, and you can call me a trash player because I pretty much am. But at this point, I do think this team is trash. But what I do think we have going on here, one, Michael being an incredibly strong player, which is by no doubt we've already seen, and two,
Yep.
Michael making a really good call and analyzing the meta properly. I don't think this team is good, but I do think this team is built to say, well, what am I using to counter Psy Spam? And they are building this team to say, well, okay, I now have answers to what they would normally do to Psy Spam, they can't do anymore. So the booster speed on the Iron Crown, as opposed to the booster special attack. You also have Calm Mind on the Iron Crown as well, right? Just little things like that in this team building here, obviously with the Kamo and stuff on the side, right? But even something as small as switching to booster speed and a Calm Mind set, just little intricate things like that that change the way you have to approach a normal matchup that you would be okay into. Like, I played them on ladder a few times. They were also on my MPA team, but when they were building this team, right, and you pull it, you go, okay, what's my normal Psy Spam line? And you no longer have that line available to you. Basically, just because of those small little details they've added to the team. Now, obviously, there's a lot of little bit more obvious changes to this team, right? Because you've got the Whimsicott, you've got the T-Tar, you've got the Kamo, right? So definitely a little bit of a different look in general. But overall, I don't think the team is amazing. Like, I think if anybody's going to try and pick up this team, I don't think it's going to be a team you're going to go, got top 4 regional, I'm going to learn this team, it's going to be great. I think the tiny little things that Michael has done, the way Michael plays the team, that's what makes this whole thing work. And I don't think the team itself is great, but Michael, of course, incredible player, found the right meta call again. It's like the last time he did it with the Kamo, kept the Kamo again, and clearly he's seeing something that everybody else isn't, because he's popping off this year.
Dude, it's a talent. It's a talent to do what he's done. And again, analyzing the meta I think is great. But when you're using a team like his, you need to know every calc. You need to know what everything does into this, so it gives you an advantage in that move selection stage, where you know how to set up the board state better because you know what you survive, what you don't. You know what you KO, what you don't, where your opponent doesn't. I know I survive a Tachyon Cutter with my Dark Urshifu. Oh, Mind, I don't survive anymore. Like that, I play passive one turn. It messes my entire usual game plan up by changing that one move here or there. And I forget who they shouted this out. I think it was about Neil's team. He had a bunch of Metamons with one off move. And it's like that really changes your game plan if you have that type of team building in the you're as an opponent, you don't want to play that one change that changes your entire game plan. Again, at least I don't. It really makes a big difference.
Absolutely. For me, I think it was round 1 actually. I played Eli Knowlton, and they had Archel.
Oh, he's a killer.
Yeah. No, my run was crazy. I played Shane Gaffney, Eli Knowlton, James Evans. Like, I had a pretty stacked run. Like, I don't think I had like a hard run per se, because like I've seen a lot harder runs, but I definitely don't think I had an easy run. But either way, I played Eli round 1, and it was one of those ones where I saw the Archaludon and I'm like, man, this is such a hard matchup for me, right? Because I have the Gouging Fire. It doesn't appreciate the Archaludon. And I happened to look over at the team sheet. This was actually going into game 2. I didn't even see it game 1. But the Archaludon was Snarl and not Body Press. So I was able to leverage King Gambit a lot more freely than I thought I was going to be able to. And it allowed me to win the set. But that, like you said, Tommy, that one move, right? In that case, it worked good for me because like it was very nice. But I'm sure a lot of other cases where people are expecting Arch to be Body Press and they want it to be Body Press, and then it's Snarl and it throws them right off, right? So things like that, right? Just the one tiny tweak can change entirely how a matchup can go.
Blake Silver got me bad at a local too. So shout out Blake. He put Play Rough on his Ogerpon in the third spot.
I've seen that one before.
His Ogerpon out of the way on the team sheet and put Play Rough as like the out of the. So I just glanced at it and I'm like, my Dragonite's safe. It's an Ogerpon and a Rillaboom. They can't do any damage. Play Rough comes out. I'm like, what just happened here?
You can put anything instead of follow me on an Ogerpon, and 90% of the time, for that first time you click it, your opponent will go, huh? Because they see Ogerpon and they just assume. Like, everybody sees Ogerpon and you just assume. You see 2 attacks and then you're just like, oh, it's Spiky, follow me. Okay. And you can just do that. You can get away with that. It's crazy how often you can get away with that.
Sword stance. I'm like, oh, it's follow me. No sword stance, follow me in my mind. No, that was not the case.
Nope, drops the player off, huh?
Even Michael Zhang's team has Stomping Tantrum and instead of a grass move, so no like Woodhammer or Horn Leech on.
I like that as well. Ashton did that as well, I think.
Let's check.
Gotcha.
No
Ashton's
grass
a
move.
killer, man. Ashton saying he had a fight to catch in his freaking thing was
Yep,
so funny. And he
you are
did.
correct.
Yeah, he had stopping.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what I thought. At least that's what he
Uh,
had when I played him at the local 2 weeks ago now, I guess. Yeah.
Dude, that's what I love about the local scene. Seeing these killers, Matt, like, make these little intricate changes and develop them into the meta. And if you have a strong local scene, you could see these changes before the regional and have a chance to try to, like, figure it out or maybe copy the good players and use it yourself. And, like, it's so cool to see how the meta develops in the locals, in the online tournaments and everywhere. I feel like locals, it develops more because they're not as public as the online limitless tours are. Where the online limitless tours, it's like, oh, I'm only using this team if I know, like, people know I'm using it already. Like, I don't care about being scouted as much. But now, like, locals, man, you could really develop a lot of stuff where they're not being streamed. Shouting out, this comes out after Monday, so I probably shouldn't shout it out, but I'm so excited to stream the local tonight. I brought everything I needed to stream it, and it's being streamed from my Twitch account. I have Kevin, K Millie. He's going to be the caster, and I'm so excited. If either of you guys are busy, free tonight, 8 p.m., I'm sure he'd love to have some input if you guys wanted to cop on. Shout out the Chilling Neigh episode this week. I would love that personally, too, just for a fun promo.
I'm going to be honest, I am probably going to be asleep.
I'll go to sleep, Ryan. That was more
I
for
might
fun.
be around. I might be
So
around.
reach out
So
to K
that,
Millie. I know you guys are friendly, too.
If I'm awake, I'll see what happens. But I'm pretty confident I will not be awake.
And it would be funny if we just like had it set up so that you guys could hop on the stream and do a Chilling Neigh takeover without like and him acting dumb and not knowing about it. I'll try to set that up in the works. But now this comes out after the thing, so if none of this happens, we're just laughing for no reason.
No, none of this is gonna happen. Everybody's like, what are they talking about?
All right, so what else did you guys see? I wanna bring this up because I think it's funny that these two teams are side by side in the standings, but there's a solo Dozo team which we've been seeing pop up, which is like the Tinglu solo Dozo, it's Yon.
Carl.
And then right below it is 222 Dozo, which also had like again coming off of a top 8 placement in Utrecht, now did well again here and really has me questioning everything for EUIC.
Dude, it's good. It's good. So wait, hand up. I lost to Carl using 222 at the most recent local. Like, that was my loss. I was using the 222 team into Carl's solo Dozo team, and he cooked me. But 222 is so much fun to use right now. If I wasn't playing Paul Chua, Tristan Medine, Kevin Miller, and Ploppy as my 4 losses at the MSS when I used it the first day, I beat Yotam and I beat my carpool ride. So, like, again, I played 5 freaking great players, 6 great players. My carpool ride, he's just not, like a newer player. He's not that well known. Brian Dumont, he's a fucking killer. If you see him, sorry about cursing. What timestamp is this?
You're good.
But he's a killer. I love Brian, and he's just not like he's a newer player. He's not somebody that want to get matched up again at the local. So again, my 2 wins were good. My 4 losses were great. Then the next day, I'm using 222. I lost to Chuppa and Carl using their solo Dozo teams, and I lost to like. It was crazy to see the level of player I'm losing to with that team. So I really think it's good because I was able to beat good players with it, but I also lost to great players with it. You know, if you know what I mean. I think it's well positioned, and I got to use it in a Tuesday tour one of these days where I'm like actually paying attention and practicing, trying to update the items and moves and EVs because I really like the fast Dozo. I think the fast Dozo is my preferred one. Rocky helmet over lefties right now, I think too. But I miss the recovery. So do I want a Rillaboom to set up terrain early? Do I want a Ninetales to set up screens early maybe and change the 222 into something else like that? You know, do I want to make changes from the 222
Tommy, you're cooking too much. I've already played too many people with Snow Dozo on ladder. Okay? No. Tommy, dial it back a little here. I don't need to be playing more Snow Dozo.
Reggie Gigas Weezing, Alola Ninetales Articuno, Dozo Tatsu. Try it out. It's fun. Right out, it's fun.
Okay.
But
I
think it's well positioned.
I brought Snow. So to my MSS like a couple weeks ago, I brought Articuno, Ninetales, Gamora, and Raging Bolt, and then Dozo Tatsu, and I faced Aaron Trailer round 1, and I got the win against him. I started 4-0, and then I lost the next 3 and lost in top 8. But you know, it was good for a minute, and then I was like, no.
I think it's good. I think it's well positioned if you know how to use it. I don't know how to use it too well, but Conk, a player like you, I think you could take advantage of the 222 with the right EVs, items, and movesets right now. You just got to cook it to your comfort level.
I think Dozo is one of those Pokemon where, and this is such a broad statement, but I'm gonna try and narrow it down in a second. But it's better the less it's used, and I think naturally because of that, it's just the nature of the Pokemon. You are going to have win conditions. I don't care what the metagame looks like. You are going to have win conditions in games, right? And that is something that you can have with a Dondozo. You are going to have games where you can say, my opponent does not have a Dozo answer. I can bring the thing. I am going to win a game. Or you can also just say, I'm going to play the mind game where I lead Dondozo plus maybe a Shenpao or a Dragonite and just say, okay, which one of us is switching out? Which one of us is putting the damage on right now? And because of that, at the worst case scenario, you are forcing a mind game. And if you can get those right and you can be really, really good at knowing how your opponent wants to try and approach that matchup, Dondozo is going to give you a chance. And I think that's what's so good about it, especially once usage goes down, because when usage goes down, all of a sudden people aren't prepping their lines into that Dondozo. So you now know your line, you now know what they think, you now think you can kind of get in their head a little bit. They're like, they don't know what to do, so you can kind of make the call that, oh, they don't know what to do, so I can just jump on them, take advantage of it, sort of thing. All right, and there's always going to be a chance with Dondozo, which is nature of the core, I guess, but it's never going away.
I want to interject here. Tell me why this is dumb. But when I was using 222, I know it's dumb. For reference, I know it's dumb. I would lead Dozo Tatsu some games. And that was to try to conceal which pair I had in the back. I didn't want to let the people know I had like the Chenpao Dragonite in the back. I didn't want to let people know I had Dozo. I had Chiyu Flutter in the back. Sometimes if I like brought Flutter and Dragonite or Flutter and Chenpao, I would lead one with Dozo. But if I had a classic duo with the 2-2-2, I would sometimes lead Dozo Tatsu and make them use all the resources to try to clean up in the back with the other pair. Why is that dumb? Why shouldn't I do that?
Well, it's pretty much kind of what Ryan was just talking about, where it's like a big part of using Dozo is forcing a mind game turn one. Like, if you lead Dozo Tatsu and they lead, like, because so many of the time they're leading, like, Instant plus Flutter, or, like, something like a fake out Mon plus something, or somewhere where they can, like, immediately, or they can just switch in their Amoonguss or something, soak up damage. Like, if they have to deal with Dozo early, that's a lot easier than if they have to deal with Dozo after losing a resource on turn one, or even playing like the mind game of, okay, Dozo and Qianpao are on the field. Is Dozo gonna protect turn one while Qianpao goes for like a, an ice spin or something like that, get a ton of damage, like Oko my Rillaboom right now, or like get a ton of damage down, and then Dozo comes in and or Tatsu comes in and gets like the EQ off or an order up, or is Dozo just gonna go for the go mode right away and just get a big wave crash off, take a KO on my Flutter, and now I'm down a
Yeah,
resource and Qianpao Flutter can or Qianpao Unite. So it's like
you
hiding
know.
which other pair is usually less concerning than getting like that turn one mind game, because if you're playing like it's all about being like a little unpredictable. And
Playing aggressive, I
it's not
like
easy
too.
to do for a long time, but like it's really just like try to get in your opponent's head and do what the opposite of what they think you're gonna do.
Reminds
You
me
know?
of Colossal.
I love
Yeah,
Colossal too.
yeah.
Get the Colossal fans out of here.
I'm so excited to use
Ryan's,
Weakness
Ryan's
Mossy this
worst,
weekend.
worst, yeah. Ryan's worst nightmare is we've now Tommy's a Dozo guy too, and we've just spent like 10 minutes talking about Dozo.
And
I
side
don't
spam.
know where
And side
where we
spam
went
earlier.
wrong. I spam.
Can we talk
when
can we talk about something cool like Terra Flying King Gambit twice in top 8? Can we talk about that? Are we gonna talk about that
Yes.
or no?
let's talk about
Like,
that.
Nah.
That was really cool. That was I
all I'm
love
gonna
that
say
adaptation.
is I
Just
might
for,
have
like
been ahead of my time because I brought Terra Flying King Gambit to Charlotte. Maybe I was ahead of
We
the.
were talking about the Hisui
you're
Ursaluna.
ahead.
Hisui Ursaluna has a. You need to. If you hit a ground move into that Gambit, the turn it terras, it's useless. If you hit a steel move into the turn and it doesn't terra, you're not getting that KO.
It,
And making that mind game with the Gambit with the Hisui Ursaluna stock rising right now,
yeah,
it really is good in the metagame. And again,
you
Lando
hit a
Eye,
Mungus
Earth
too.
Power.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll take that. I'll take that mind game. Yeah, one level further with Lando Eye. If you click an Earth
yeah,
Power into a Terra Flying,
Yep.
no damage. If you click Sludge Bomb into the Steel, no
no
damage.
damage.
It's truly like a mind game in terms of the Terra there, and really forces your opponent to kind of play around. Maybe like they don't want to click Earth Power into that slot C until you Terra, and so now your Gambit gets to stay on the field longer. You
Yep.
get to preserve your Terra. I think it was such a cool, like it's a
It's a very cool
very
call.
cool adaptation to Lando Eye, especially because we see the top three teams. I think, yeah,
Lando
top three
Eye's
teams.
everywhere.
And James Evans talked about in his one of his interviews, I was listening to it, he's like, Landoi is just an absurdly good Pokemon right now because there's not a lot of great checks to it, and it just does so much damage. And
Yep.
like Raging Bolt being one of the best mons, like maybe the best mon in the format, or at least like a top three best mon in the format. Landoi does great against that, and then Sludge Bomb, Earth Power does great into Incin, into Rillaboom, right, into even to
There's two
Ogerpon. So
Pokemon. There's two Pokemon that I can confidently say have a very positive Landoi matchup, but they have negative matchups into everything else in the meta, I think. Corviknight and Bronzong. It's like those are my two guys. If I want to wall Landoi
Yeah.
endgames,
If you
it's like
want
you
to
can't
completely
touch me.
wall it, yeah,
yeah, if you want to completely well, but I think Ogerpon Water, like a fast Ogerpon
it's very
Water,
strong.
is
That's,
really strong
that's what
into
I
it,
was.
right? But like
Porygon 2 is very
when you have
strong.
stuff like yeah, but like when you have stuff to protect it with like James Evans, right? He had fake out plus like sub. You have potential. You have follow me potential. You have like it's just hard to like if you put position it properly. And like what I think James, what I noticed, I played against him using at Knoxville, and then I saw this on stream is one thing I think he does really well is he'll have Rillaboom on the field, have Lando I, click fake out, and Terra the Lando I, and then click
Get
substitute
the
so
recovery.
that he gets the healing back for the
Yeah.
substitute because he's now touching the terrain when he's a poison type. And I think that's just a smart, like, he doesn't need to Terra, like, offensively or even defensively in that moment, but just getting that
Short
recovery
recovery.
back actually just helps with that longevity of the Lando I. I think that was just really
And
smart
breaking
play.
swipe. The gouging fire's
Yeah.
breaking swipe, making everything less strong so the substitute lasts that much longer. So that you could maybe potentially get another substitute
Hmm.
off after you get the grassy terrain and the lefties recovery. No, he
Yep.
doesn't have lefties, he has left. Never mind. With the grassy terrain recovery. Yeah.
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 So it's like
Yeah.
it's really cool to see.
James's team is
Yeah.
is cooking pretty hard. I mean, I like it a lot. I think it's probably one of the more complete versions of gouging fire we've ever seen. That's kind of what my group was trying for this weekend. We didn't quite get it right. We had Sandpow over Flutter, but we kind of had a similar concept, right? And what I like about a lot
Yeah.
is you kind of just have a couple distinct modes, but at the same time you kind of have the modes that yes they're distinct, but they also kind of gel together as well. So like you can always just pull up with I'm gonna support Lando this game because Lando is really really good. I'm playing like a hard balanced team. I get to go fake out, follow me, support the Lando, right? And then probably have like a Flutter in the back. Or, I can go with the gouging mode. I get my Howl mode beside my King Gambit. I get to go breaking swipe. Or at the end of the day, what if I just wanted to merge them? And they merge together very, very nicely. I know with certain teams that have kind of different modes, it's very tough for them to merge. You kind of have to pick one. But on a team like this, you can merge those modes. There are a couple modes that I see that jump out of the team immediately to me, but you can merge them at any point, so you can always bring any of the six, and I think that is very, very threatening, especially going into turn one. Because in team preview on certain teams, you see Pokemon A and Pokemon B, and because they brought those two, they have to have C and D in the back. They couldn't bring E and F, right? But with
There's
James's
a
team,
formula.
there's always that option to any of those six could be brought because the team, yes, is separate, but the modes gel together so well.
Yeah. Totally agree. Okay, so I want to shift to something that so we talked about um last episode about snow because snow had just won Utrecht and we were talking about it and if it was gonna snow going into Vancouver.
I thought it was.
Funny enough,
I thought
every
it was.
single weather placed higher than the highest
Yes.
placing snow.
Yes.
I know.
It was mostly raining in Vancouver. There was a few rain teams in day two, notably Marcus getting the highest placing rain team. But there was also a Sun team in day two, and then even Len with his
Yeah.
Lentar top 64, I think a place above or two places above the Snow team, but with his Sand team, yeah, two places above.
Timeout. What happened? I still think it's a good archetype that does well on the local scene. Why didn't it have a performance at this regional? Were people
Play,
too prepared for it? I
players
still think it's volatile enough to swing those matchups out.
players were ready for it. And what
Players are
happens
ready.
now is not only are players ready for it, they're ready for it and they've learned where the variance is coming from and they
Yeah.
know how to play around that variance now. So,
Okay.
for example, for my team, right, I have my AV King Gambit and my Gouging Fire. Now, obviously, I have a very strong matchup in the snow with those two, right? So I know I need to minimize the variance. So what I like to do is, if they shouldn't be bringing snow versus me, in my opinion. I have an AV, right? But if they do, right, it's one of those ones where once you have your lines, you know when you have to hit the Articuno, when you ignore the Articuno, right? And by learning those lines ahead of the game, you're not losing game one to figuring it out, right? And a lot of the times, I remember back in, I don't remember what regulation it was, but Nails or Nick Navarre had the Iron Bundle, Specs Iron Bundle team, right?
I think it was B,
It was
regulation
B.
B.
Okay, cool, thank you. Right,
Might have been
and
C early on.
my
I
team
don't think Team
building,
Blues were around here.
and one of my team building partners, I think, said it best: is no one knew what was happening because it was the first time we'd ever seen a team like that, and game one was quite literally, let's learn some damage calculations, and that very heavily favored Nails. Nick. Nails, Nick, whatever you want to call them, right? And then,
Navarre.
yeah. I know. You know what? I'm tired. Let me be. Um, but then the same thing, I think, with Tio in, or Nikhil over in Utrecht. I think it was Utrecht, right? It's
Germany, right?
Yeah.
Or am I wrong?
Yeah, Utrecht's
Just
in
Utrecht,
Germany,
yeah.
right?
Utrecht's in Germany.
Anyways,
Little geography lesson.
right? The same thing happens there, right? You've never seen a team like this, so you spend game one trying to see what's happening, and you really don't. You either you get the chance to see what's happening, but maybe you just lost anyways because you didn't figure it out soon enough. B, you don't get a chance to see what's happening because they get the variance in their favor. And if either of those two things happen, they have an inherent advantage going into games 2 and 3. But without that element, I don't want to say element of surprise because that, I don't know, it seems like the wrong term. But for lack of a better one, I'll use it. Right? But once everybody's prepped, I no longer have to spend game one wondering what my best way to approach that matchup is. Doesn't make the team bad, but it hurts the team a lot because it really valued having that element where maybe players didn't necessarily know how to pilot into it. Yes, you're going to still be able to get variance out of things. There's no doubt in my mind it's still going to be a good team. But once players have mindsets going into it, like I had my lines set. Like I was like, okay, game one, if they do this is my game plan game one. If they're approaching it this way, this is how I'm getting around all the variance they can throw at me. If they approach it this way, this is how I'm, right? I have my lines into that team to mitigate that variance because at the end of the day, that's kind of what Pokemon is in a sense, is minimizing those, like maximizing your chances to win, minimizing the RNG, right? And when you're playing and or prepping against a team that's as heavily reliant on that RNG, still functions without it, but can swing it in your favor. They can swing things in its favor so fast, you have to have plans that are set to minimize that RNG. And I think that's what we're seeing here. I think everybody kind of saw that and said, we got to make sure we're not losing to this immediately.
Yeah, exactly. But I just want to correct something. I'm dumb. I forgot Michael Zhang was clearly the top placing Sand team that time. But I think like what's notable is that there were kind of the normal amount of weather teams, I'd say. Maybe like slightly more than normal, but like not anything crazy where it wasn't like everyone was starting to run weather to outpace snow. You just learn how. And I think that was a big part of it, where it was okay, like we know how much damage Articuno does. We know, what we need to prioritize and stuff like that. So, I think that was super notable. The other thing is, I think it's kind of interesting where we had this long break, especially in North America, especially between regionals of Knoxville and Vancouver, and in between there was like more meta development like online and on Showdown and stuff like that, and like just teams like leaking, and one of them was like the Japan Balance, which was what Brady ran, pretty much, and then there was also the Tinglu Dozo stuff, which was also stuff that like everyone was kind of aware of, both teams like very much aware, even though they hadn't like had like this big tournament result or anything like that. It was more so like, okay, these teams are out there, good players are using these teams, we know. And they still did so well. Like we see Brady doing well with like I forget if this is the exact version of the Japan Balance or slight variation, but
yeah, I was talking to Brady. He said you could Google Japanese Balance and it would come up. That would be his team.
Yeah. And then we also see
Brady.
And then we see the Tinglu Dozo stuff like have several placements in day two.
Hmm.
Shout out Tristan Medine, Carl, Chuppa,
Yeah,
the homies, the New York, New
exactly.
Jersey homies. Yeah.
I also want to point out Volcarona if we're going to be on teams that kind of picked up. Volcarona was
Yes.
used here as well. We got top 32
Is that the Eric Rios?
Ale
Eric?
Ale Pistis. I never pronounced their last name right. I'm not even going to try.
Oh, they're cool.
Yeah.
There's see something on Twitter or
Yeah,
I forget their
Ciso,
name.
yeah.
Yeah, no, they're nice. They're very nice.
Yeah.
And
Once again, Canadian did really
Volcarona.
well. There's one other thing I want to talk about before we do move on, but let's finish the meta analysis first. Just remind me, I want to get back to this point later.
Okay. Well, we hadn't really touched on usage stats, so I want to quickly go through that and talk about Ogerpon Fire. Something that we
Yeah,
saw
what happened?
died down for like a while once Instant came in, but now we see it
I
in
didn't get the
top
memo.
12. Yeah, it's top 12 in both day one, day two, and like I think people just forgot how dumb strong this thing is when you Terra, especially. Like you get the Terra +1 Ivy Cudgels, like that's just OHKOing anything that's not resisting it. You know, like almost anything if
Half
you don't
of
get
Top
the
Cut like
What's that?
legitimately half of Top Cut had Ogerpon Fire.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
was not on my bingo card. That was not something I expected to happen at all.
Yeah.
Ogerpon Fire outplaced or not outplaced, but had more appearances in top 8 than Incineroar, which is kind of insane.
Yeah,
But just goes to show,
absolutely
like, I
insane.
mean, like we see Ogerpon Fire next to King Gambit on two of these teams, and then we see it next to a T-Tar that can do well into Incineroar, and then Neil's team has I think Urshifu Rapid Strike. So you have those checks to Incineroar, and then suddenly Ogerpon Fire can just go insane, and I think that's something that is not going to die down. I think that's something that we're going to continue to see because even with Intimidate, like the Terra Fire Ivy Cudgels are just doing so much damage, and the adaptation a lot of these top players had was Stomping Tantrum to deal with Incineroar. So I think that's a really scary mon to be back in the meta, but it's gonna be very strong.
Urshifu tying 44% usage in day 2 as well, tying for top with Instant. Think it's kind of wild.
Urshifu Rapid is
Yeah.
back. Urshifu Dark dominated for like
What?
the majority of the format,
It's still
and
there. It's
then
still sitting there just under 20%, so it's still really good.
I love
yeah,
Dark Fu too. Dark Urshifu is my dude. Like, see, I love that it's been getting above the Rapid Strike one, even though I love the water. And now, what's it called? Rapid Strike's just back. People are like, oh, Ogre Pond Water can't actually stop this mon. Like, people got the memo and figured it out. Like, oh, Ogre Pond Water isn't the end all be all counter to this.
Turns
thing.
out double
Isn't
fake
the-
out plus Urshifu is really, really good. Who would have
Who
thought?
would have thought?
and not only that, like because I hate facing against for Urshifu Rapid Strike, and so I'm like, okay, I got my Ogerpon Water. But then when Scarf Urshifu like clicks U-turn and does like half
Well,
your health, like,
that's
are you
exactly
really
it.
getting countered? Are you countering it at all? Like, and then you can't click your Horn Leech. You have to like.
And you can't tear
It's
out of the
just
weakness because then you lose your Surging Strikes immunity. Like,
Yeah.
yep. And then Rillaboom starts to come in and just destroys you. So it's
yep.
just like
Yeah, it's pretty
yeah.
well
Ogerpon
positioned right
Water
now,
is
which is
not.
I think why a lot of people are switching to the Fire Ogerpon and why you're seeing more
Yes.
of it. One, because it's really, really strong into opposing Rillaboom, which beats Urshifu generally. We now have Urshifu Rapid Strike picking back up in usage, which is taking up that water slot, but people still recognize the value in Ogerpon, and being able to now have Fire Water Grass Core in two very incredibly offensive Pokemon. And then you can still support that with the likes of Instant and Rillaboom, because Rillaboom boosts your Ogerpon Fire with Grassy Glide capabilities. And then you also have the Instant for Fake Out plus Intimidates and just keeping pieces alive. I think overall, Ogerpon Fire is very, very well positioned right now, because there's not a whole lot that stops it or that can cleanly one-shot it before it can start steamrolling.
Wait, I got another timeout.
Yeah.
How does Mold Breaker work with Frigoraph? If you hit Mold Breaker into the giraffe, it hits it. But if you hit it into the partner, it doesn't hit it.
Are we
Or
talking?
how does it-
Are we
So,
talking Grassy Glide?
Grassy Glide with
You
priority.
can click Glide into the slot.
You can click Glide when you have an Ogerpon Fire because of the Mold Breaker ability. The giraffe doesn't stop the priority in that case. So that's the way the interaction works. I thought it was only if you hit the giraffe. But if you hit the giraffe's partner as well, with Mold Breaker,
Yeah.
it won't stop it. Okay. So that's really cool. And
Yep.
that's another
You can't Terra.
reason.
If you Terra, then it'll stop.
Yeah,
because
well, because then you don't have Mold Breaker.
Oh, then you don't have
Yeah,
the plus
you have-
one. Yeah. You don't have the plus one if you keep Mold Breaker. You get the plus one, you lose Mold
Yeah.
Breaker. Okay.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of that, but I mean, like Wolf tried to show us like in Charlotte how good Ogre Pond Fire was, and like it's just, I mean, like grassy glide potential. It's now kind of more pivoted to like, okay, there's the stomping tantrum set, even to help against raging bolts that are like
That's right.
normally the Urshifu counters and stuff like that. So this, I mean, I feel like the meta's become it. It was really offensive, and then it slowed down. I think like the pace slowed
So
down a bit, and
slow.
we still have like a slower pace. But now it's, I think, starting to creep back up again into like, okay, let's use some more offensive mons. Let's push the tempo a little bit, and we can. I think we can kind of see that with like even how James is describing gouging fire, like how he plays gouging fire was like,
Yeah.
I just want to play aggressive. Like I want to play aggressive and then have a few like defensive
Yep.
tools, but like starting to be okay. Like he's just gonna click Heat Crash. He's just gonna click Breaking Swipe, and he's just gonna click Howls to start boosting up damage. And I think like, I mean, we saw, I think his Ogre Pond Water, he like Terra and then +1, get the Howl boost and just Oko like opposing like Ogre One Fire, stuff like that. So it was really fun to, I think this is a refreshing tournament to see after, a huge break. But very curious to see how this impacts, if at all, how excuse me, how Europe views the meta and like how EUIC is
Dude,
gonna
it
gonna be.
has to affect the UIC. What do you mean, if at all? It's gonna affect the way people are playing in London. People are already like, all right, now I need my gouging fire answers more than I did before. Now it's not just that Japanese balance dozo Tinglu stuff. Now it's that gouging fire stuff I need to be aware of too. Now Ogre Pond Heartflame, like we're just talking about, it affected London a lot, I think, and I think we're gonna see more weather over in London. When is that? Next week or the week after?
Yeah, in 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Two
It's
weeks.
the
Yeah,
the
like 2 weeks
the
from Saturday.
12th, 13th, and 14th.
Yeah, I was just figuring out my hotel situation this past yesterday for EUIC actually. I'm I mean, I have the opening, I guess. Ryan's super close to his invite, but if I can secure it at UIC, I'll hopefully win.
I have an MSS on
Win
Friday.
Oh
Let's
no.
go.
I have to get top 4 though because I don't
I
have
was gonna
slots
say
open.
you already have your six best
Yeah.
finishes.
So
When
I
is
have to get
Orlando?
top 4.
Orlando is before or after London?
Orlando's the week after.
I'm not going to Orlando though.
Neither am I. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
What I need to do,
Well,
what
I
I
think
really want to do, because it would be very very funny, the way my best finish lines are lined up right now. If I were to win a Premier Challenge, I would be sitting perfectly at 499, which would just be very funny. It would suck, but it would be very very funny.
just the way the
That
math
would
maths.
that would be iconic if you did that and then I was able to get the
Yeah, if
invite
I was
and I
at
was able to.
499 and then you got your invite at EUIC.
Well, it's brutal, dude. Silver Broom. He needed 2 points going into NAIC. And I felt so bad that he didn't get it. He was at 298 last season,
Yep.
and being so close to that invite, like you need to get that before NAIC if you can. Like, listen to me. If you're trying to go to Hawaii, if you're trying, like really, you want to get there, don't leave your invite to NAIC. That's too much of a gamble, and that's how I felt last year going
That's
in,
how I
needing
felt in
top
2022.
128.
I missed an invite
I
on it,
met you 2022. That's when we first met,
and I
and I
missed
was
an
like, "Why is
invite.
this guy so
We
upset?" He
missed
just
I got 91st. We missed the top 128. Top 128. We missed the
yeah.
kicker for it, and it was like by like 5 or 6 people. And I mean, hey, should I have just got top 64? Absolutely, but I technically did enough. I did what I needed to do.
I
Yeah.
went to Puerto Rico to try to get top 8 there instead of going to any like this. I actually, if there's a Puerto Rican special event, it's cheap air. Like it was a cheap flight, cheap hotel, great food for cheap. Can't recommend it enough. Venue was awesome. It was 32 freaking killers. It was Joe UX, Zach Thornburg, Mike D'Angelo, Sohaib, me, Brandon Thunhagen, Katori. Like it was a bunch of freaking killers there. And again, a lot of us were in the situation where if we get top 8, we don't need points at NAIC. Then we can relax at NAIC. So like again,
Yeah.
try to set yourself up so that that sweaty ass North American International Championship isn't what you're needing to guarantee your invite. There's going to be a lot of disappointed people that don't get their invite at NAIC.
But
There's going to be a lot. There
but
always is.
there's still NAIC. So don't get discouraged if you don't get it
Yeah.
before
Yeah.
NAIC. Let's
I
look at it.
just
Let's look at it both ways now too, right? Right. Don't go in
Okay.
thinking, oh, I got to get before NAIC. I got to get it before NAIC, and then be so stressed out that you don't get it, and you know what I mean. And then now all of a sudden you're doing
NAIC is a
both,
big
right?
opportunity.
You stressed yourself out, didn't succeed, and now you're still gonna stress yourself out because now it really is your last chance, right? Let
So
the
how many
season
months is
play
that?
out. Don't get too stressed about it, but definitely, if you are pushing it,
Just trying to do
it is definitely nice to have it before NAIC.
You have 2 months. Do what you can, players. Do what you can.
I only have EUIC and Indy left. Like out of all events, even including locals, right now that's the only ones on my calendar in terms of like I'm 100% going, and I technically only need like I need top 256 at both. But EUIC is like I feel
Yeah.
like is gonna be such a different animal that like I top 256 out of like 1100 players is still
It's
you
still
gotta
not
you
easy,
gotta
Not
be
yeah.
pretty
easy.
high.
I walked away from EUIC last season thinking my season was over. I was like, I whiffed. I got Fisher Tinglut out of the freaking Japan. I can't believe I'm not going to Japan. And then I ended up bringing it back in the GC3. And that's something that's this weekend that we can't forget about, too.
Yeah.
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 That's certainly gonna be interesting. I'm excited to see what people cook up for
I will
the
be
gold.
I'll be streaming with some fun stuff. I put a tweet out today saying that most
I
like Pokemon I will use on my team. So I'm expecting it to be some random garbage like a Nimble or like a Smoliv or
I have
something.
my recommendation has 7 likes so far. It's I bet you can't guess what it is. It's
Well, that's
Conkeldurr.
cheap.
I
Conkeldurr,
have to.
baby. Honestly though, if I get Conkeldurr, I will be so happy. That's like a usable Pokemon.
That's a really good mon in
I'm losing
situations.
right
You
now.
fix it in the
I
corner.
have Smoliv and Dipplin have more likes than me so far, so I
What's
gotta
winning,
up my
Smoliv?
game. Dipplin.
You can make
Yeah.
Dipplin work. You're good
I
enough.
don't want to make Dipplin work.
No, you don't want to. You did this to yourself,
You wanna
bro.
make
I don't know what to
Smoliv
say.
I'm trying to farm content. Let me beat on me.
For the YouTube clicks. No, it's worth it. What's it called? Jacob Mortensen, Scraw VGC, got points with Marrow last season in the
Yeah.
GCs.
Do whatever you want.
Yeah.
The thing
Yeah,
is,
Yeah,
I
I
don't.
mean,
The worst case scenario. The thing is, I don't need it
yeah.
for my invite, right? But it would be very funny if it ends up being that I get my invite off the GC with some whack
Smoliv.
Pokemon.
Yeah, that's true. I don't think I'll have time to play this weekend, unfortunately. Maybe I'll try to play day one and see if I can get something, but
I mean, I
Weird
went
stretch
I'm
for guys.
excited.
1580 something last GC and I got 5 points. So I mean,
I really messed up. So I thought the GC was the same weekend as Vancouver, the same way they were lining up with regionals. So it's Friday night. It's 6:15. I'm like, oh my god, the GC locked at 7 p.m. last time. I need to lock in my team. I get out my hotspot. I get out my switch on the train. I lock in the team, and I lock in the wrong Oranguru. And then I go to start playing, and I realize it's this upcoming weekend, not last weekend.
Oh,
so
no.
so you're still stuck with the wrong Oranguru.
I have the wrong Oranguru locked in for the GC3, and I've been practicing with it. And I'm like, okay, I need to change the way I'm like thinking about board states
Yeah,
in my
now you
head.
gotta just adapt.
I have Symbiosis Life Orb instead of Citrus Berry Inner Focus.
Yeah,
It's a big switch. Dude.
that could
It's
be
a
a problem.
big switch.
That's a problem, but it could work. You can make it
I'll
work.
figure it out. Instruct Fissure. Fissure instruct Fissure. Let's just have some fun, boys.
Send it.
There you go. All right. Well, we're coming up towards the end here. Any other kind of meta-analysis or any other things you guys want to talk
I
about in
got I
terms of
got one point that I
Vancouver?
wanted to talk about earlier, and
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
shout out to Jean-Marc because one, yes they got ninth, yes they bubbled. It's really really sad, but I do want to point out Jean-Marc has now cut this tournament or day 2/cut this tournament 3 years in a row. They
That's
got top
consistent.
4 in 2022. They've got top 32 last year, I believe. I know they debuted at least. I think it was top 32, and then they have top 16 this year as well. So, and I believe they're the only player to have cut Vancouver regionals or day 2 Vancouver regionals 3 days in a row, or 3 years in a row, which is kind of heat. So, figured
It's
I'd
so
point that
nice,
one out.
dude. It couldn't happen to a better person. Jean-Marc is such a like when you see him smiling, wearing he had a Stack Attack hat when I first met him.
No Stack
I was
Attack
like, oh,
hat
this
this
dude's
weekend.
awesome.
I was saddened.
Yeah, this dude's awesome. I was like, to see him do well is something awesome. Get Dion, and who was his opponent that was like, I'm excited to get a rose from Marcus, and then Marcus.
Oh, that's Scott.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Scott's awesome.
Again, Scott's awesome too. Like, how much fun the community has been having recently, and to see these guys again, all friends do so well. Like the top 10, I've had all positive interactions with, which is really cool. Again, and even I know I probably shouldn't bring it up, but some people really have some negative interactions with one of them, and like I know Neil donated so much money to try to help the grassroots Christmas store, and like there's so much good in the community right now that we need to highlight. There is a lot of bad too sometimes, but like there's so much good, and to see all these people do so well, I was so happy. I was really so happy to see all my friends again. Shout out Katori, shout out Brandon Toonhagen. That dude helped me more improve as a player than anyone else on this fucking planet. Sorry about cursing again. All right.
You're good. You're good. You're
Yeah, so
good.
that's for the
It's
yeah.
not a big concern on the pod right now, anyways. But we are gonna try and keep it family
No, I
friendly
gotta stop
going
cursing.
forward.
I let two up this, but really gotta pee too. Sorry. Something like that. But is there anything else we got to cover for it?
We're getting unhinged towards the end here. We're
Yeah,
getting unhinged.
time out, time out. You could probably see me fidgeting towards the last like 10 minutes. Like, all right, how much longer are we gonna go? I don't want to wrap it up early. I don't want to leave, but
Tommy, I have you know I'm not cutting that out. I hope you know that.
you know you're not cutting it out. I know you. But yeah, what else do we got to talk about? This has been so much fun. I really liked recording this episode so far too. I think we covered a lot,
Yeah.
and like again, I
Yeah,
loved
I think
watching this tournament as a fan. This Vancouver tournament as a fan watching it was so much fun, and again to see so many friends doing well. I can't say like how proud I am of all of them enough.
Oh, I do
really
I
can't.
do have one other thing to say.
Yes.
I do have one other thing to say. I don't have their name on the Top Good Explorer, but I thought that was really funny. There was a person named Chansey Wigglestove. I thought that was very fun. And apparently it was their first tournament ever. They started playing like 10 days ago or something like that. I do not have confirmation on whether or not it's their real name, but they went, I think, positive. It went 5-4 at their first ever tournament after starting 10 days ago. I thought that was a pretty
That's
heat story too.
There was a
That's
Red
amazing.
Vaporeon on the roster at one of my locals, and we're like, "Who the hell is Red Vaporeon?" And he had a mono fairy team. I think he went 05, but he was a nice
Sadness.
guy.
No, but you know what? I just thought it was cool. You know, first tournament you start playing 10 days ago and you go positive at a regional. That's impressive.
Impressive.
Really impressive. That's super impressive. Well,
Also,
yeah,
Chansey Wigglestove, if you're watching, is that your real name? I need to know.
we need to know. Everyone needs to know. Everyone really needs to know. Yeah, I think it was an incredible tournament to like watch as a viewer, just like as a fan from home. I was having a great time watching, and I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of cool. I mean, I tweeted out before the tournament that I needed a team to steal from Vancouver to use at EUIC, so I will be deep diving into Top Cut Explorer over the next 2 weeks.
So what you're saying is you
But
will be the Top Cut Explorer. Huh? Huh?
that amazing. This is the content you guys come here for. I love it.
I'm sorry.
But
Comment and all that stuff again. What was it? We got some comments last time. I appreciate people commenting. Like, leave comments. It helps the algorithm, right? I don't know about the algorithm. Ryan, you're the expert on that.
I'm
But
not the
it'll
expert
help.
on that. But
You're
yes,
absolutely the
yes.
expert out of all
Like,
three.
comment, subscribe, helps out the channel. Really do appreciate it, of course. We love engaging with you guys as well. So
yes,
Yes.
and tune into to Ryan's run. We're using hopefully Kinkelder this weekend.
please go. It's gonna be over by the time you guys go vote. But please, if you're gonna somehow, maybe you guys can like, we'll leak the episode early or something, and you guys can go vote for like Conkelder.
this.
Just please
Get
don't let
this.
me make
Tweet
dip.
it out to
Please don't let me use Diplant.
No, vote different. All right, vote different.
All right, well, another great episode. Thank you everyone so much as always for your continued support and for listening. Hope you
Yes.
guys enjoyed, and we will catch you again in 2 weeks. Bye everyone.
See you guys.
Love you.